Hi all, I have an interesting game from last night to show. This is against T. Allen of the Wanstead Chess Club. A huge membership for this chess club. I played T. Allen earlier in the season. There's a video for that. I'll give it a link in a pinned comment or description. Just remind me on that. So in this game I was playing black. So d4, I played knight f6. We go into a king's engine defense. I play here the provocative castling just for fun. There's a key game, Leela against Fischer, where Fischer seemed to omit d6. But e5 is mostly harmless. He didn't play this. It's kind of mostly harmless. In the classic Fischer game, the centre really collapsed, and there was a brilliant move at the end. I won't spoil it. Check it out. So anyway, he didn't go in with e5. Bishop e2. The Leela game, by the way, was the first ever video I annotated, I think, the first ever monster game. So bishop e2, d6, f4, the dreaded 4 pawns attack. So named because, believe it or not, there are 4 pawns. I know, it's very creative. c5, d5. Neil Bradbury, Barnet Chess Club's honorary IM, described it as one of the most aggressive opening variations going, the 4 pawns attack. So e6, knight f3, e takes, c takes, bishop g4. This is my standard plan. I'm ready on h3 to take on f3. However, after castling, I kind of forget the real theory of this. I play a move which actually doesn't mean white doesn't have to play h3 with the move I played a6. The thing is, it seems as though the most precise move is knight bd7, with the idea of playing, putting the brakes on basically on the e5 square, and then to kind of target the e4 pawn to provoke white into playing h3 just to relieve the central pressure. As an example of this, let's have a look at knight bd7. If e5, you might think, isn't this dangerous? Just taking and then bishop takes f3 is just in time. So e takes, bishop takes e2, hits the queen, knight takes, and this pin, although annoying, it's of no harm, it seems. Black's much better there. So knight bd7 seems to be the move. If we just look at this again for those theoretically interested, if knight takes e5, then bishop takes, knight takes, and then there's knight takes d5. Yeah, that could be taken. So whatever way happens here, it seems this is a fairly safe move, knight bd7. And okay, so say rook e1 instead of e5, then rook e8, and this is what my opponent was saying after the game, that it's rook e8 which prompts h3, and he is a bit of an expert in this line. He's even played it in ICCF correspondence chess, and he's even been up to a semi-final world championship in ICCF. So I believe him when he says that, you know, the rook e8 is the thing to prompt h3. So in this position, because of the e4 pressure, h3 is prompted. For example, if knight d2 is played, then bishop takes, and then knight h5. This position is actually kind of dangerous for white. There's a lot of central pressure here going on, and in fact, you know, black might be able to win material soon. So so rook e8 would prompt h3 and then taking, and it's here that there are moves like queen a5 which are very, very interesting to consider. For example, like this is an interesting continuation. This has been seen in a John Nunn game. There was a John Nunn game with black, and this is the kind of thing I was vaguely remembering with queen a5, but this is yeah, very different to the game here. But John Nunn actually got an amazing attack on the dark squares. Let's have a quick look at this game. So queen c7 because of taking, hitting both rooks, that bishop, and then a wonderful attack here occurred with bang, rook takes h3, rook e2, check. So John Nunn crushing game, and white had to resign. There's bishop d4 coming in on g1, on king g1. So that, you know, it's all very, very interesting, but you can see the move order is knight bd7, not a6. Very, very important detail. to be able to prepare for rook e8, putting the brakes on e4 to hit e4. So the brakes on first and then to hit e4. But the way I've played it, a6, doesn't have to play h3. And I go and play this kind of queen a5, which is vaguely remembered. And I'm starting to be in big trouble here. Bishop d2 was played. Already, it seems, after queen a5, it's really asking for it with e5. And this could be devastating. So I'm lucky he didn't play e5, because it seems as though in this position, this crushing e6 can be played. And here, black's getting sliced up with the queen on a5, queen in Siberia, it might as well be. Yeah, I haven't got that t-shirt on though, form pawn. But queen in Siberia, there's a t-shirt for that. But look at the light squares. You know, after check, say, look at the light squares, how they get carved up. After taking knight g5, the light squares, you know, threatening bishop c4, and spectator pieces here. This is just devastating. Black's getting absolutely slaughtered. It's absolute slaughter time. So this could happen after e5. It seems, for example, knight here, this kind of thing, there's knight g5 hitting f7, hitting the bishop on g4. And so this is just very, very horrible as well. Black could even get mated like this, classic smothered mate. It's just very, very horrible. And if we look at this again, instead bishop f5, then there's g4. So it could all end quite horribly for black here. Which is why that's why I've laboured the point that knight bd7 might be better. The best thing to do is knight bd7 to put the brakes on white's centre, but no, I didn't. And I wasn't. Okay, so this is not so punishing. Bishop d2. I played c4. Now, clearly, if bishop takes c4, then there's the cheeky check and winning the bishop. No, he didn't fall for that. King h1 now. Queen c7. Bishop e3. Knight bd7. h3, so finally we see h3, bishop takes, knight c5, and here after e5, knight fd7, to my great relief, he played actually e takes d6, which promises white no more than equality, if that. The key move here is e6, and I mentioned to him it kind of liberates this bishop, and you know that's the opposite of the parallel of the opposite side of the coin of containment, which is a favourite Leela strategy to block in bishops, is liberation. You know, you have containment on one end and liberation on the other. So you want to liberate your pieces, especially bishops, and contain the opponent's pieces. I think that's what is underlined by neural network games we've seen recently. This is liberating the pieces, and the d5 square can be a springboard for white's pieces. For example, f takes, d takes, here knight d5, and the c4 pawn's going to drop pretty soon, or you know, under horrible circumstances. For example, like this, and it's almost like winning an exchange. And if b5 drops, it's just a horrible position. That sort of thing is possible. And if knight f6 instead, again, you know, white has this very dominating position coming up. Look at this control of that d5 square. It's huge. The bishop is fantastic, supporting that central d5 square. White's got a major pawn here. Yeah, it's very, very nice stuff. But I was totally let off with e takes d6. To my great relief, I didn't see I had too many issues here. Queen takes d6. So here, bishop takes c5 was played. If knight e4, that's a way of losing a piece after knight takes, and then here, and the bishops get one of them's falling off the board. So bishop takes c5. I was totally relieved. I'm threatening things like knight d3 now. So hence this panicky kind of pawn sack with knight e4. So he was scared maybe at knight d3. I'm on f4 as well. So knight e4, just losing that pawn. Rook b1. But now I don't have to move my bishop back. I can close in my bishop. But it is an extra pawn, and the weight of the blockade, you know, it's taking up resources to keep this pawn blockaded. That's what I reasoned. Queen b3. I played b6. According to the engines, b5 is plausible here. For example, a takes, rook fb8, and black's doing very, very well here. Two connected passed pawns. Thanks very much. That's really nice for black. But no, I played b6. which is not as good. It weakens the light squares. We have f5, rook a e8, bishop d3 hitting a6, and now play a5. Better is rook e3 here. For example, bishop takes, bishop a3, fg, hg. This is just an example with bishop c5, queen e5 threatening bishop d6 sometimes. So this is very dangerous. For example, rook takes and queen f5 and c2 and rook c8 with ideas of bishop f4, bishop a3. Black's getting a big advantage there. But no, I played a5, which gives up the b5 square. Now we have rook f e1. There's better ideas here. For example, bishop b5 to c6. We were looking at this a lot after the game. Bishop b5, this possibility. So say rook e5, bishop c6. It doesn't really matter about losing this pawn. He was worried about losing this pawn. I just thought I wouldn't necessarily do this. I don't like the fragmented pawns. And he controls e8. This should be, I think this should be okay for white. So that didn't happen. We have actually rook e1. And now all of a sudden this pawn can be used as bait to kind of lure the queen to Siberia. And trying to get to his king. So rook takes, queen g3. I don't mind about b6. Rook d1. But it's not as clear cut as I first imagined here after rook e8. There was a long think here. In his time, he was thinking, and I started to think there's some defensive resources coming up after queen takes b6, which eventually was played. One such defensive resource is the possibility of queen g1. So if rook e1 check, there's a possibility after taking off queen g1. Now, in his time, I managed to find a major improvement on rook e1. And I wonder if you can spot it. There's two really kind of clinically precise moves here. My one is kind of liked by the engine, actually, what I played here. I wonder if you can spot one of the two, 50 points for each. If I give you 5 seconds to pause video. Black to play here. So right now it's opposite coloured bishops, but sometimes the opposite coloured bishops is good for the attacking player. It's like having an extra piece on that colour complex to attack with. A bishop without a counterpart is a dangerous bishop when you're on the attack, especially when you've got your queen near the opponent's king. So what would you play here with black? 5 seconds to pause the video. Okay, 50 points for either rook e3, which is what I played, or bishop a3. Bishop a3 is very interesting indeed, with the idea of rerouting to d6. So for example here, bishop d6, it seems as though white's tied down here, significantly tied down. You can see that, say bishop here, rook e2, this becomes a disaster scenario quite quickly. For example, like this is even possible, just winning material. It's a total disaster scenario. There are lots of disaster scenarios after bishop a3. For example, if we look at this again, instead of rook c1, rook d3, the queen can drop here to e5 and then c2. So yeah, there's that c pawn as well is very dangerous. So I played rook e3, and I thought I wanted the queen on a light square, so it's not got access to g1. So we have fg inserted first. On f6, this looks a little bit dangerous. We have got the dreaded form pawn, but it's not such a killer here, this dreaded form pawn, because of bishop a3. So for example, check bishop f8, and then white has to do something about rook takes d3, and then there's rook e2, double attacking g2, threatening mate and the bishop. So that would be a disaster for white. There's nothing there, despite the form pawn on this occasion. So anyway, f takes g6 was played, h takes, queen b5. I love the fact that queen's on a light square now, no queen g1, naughty business. I play c2, bishop takes c2. So clearly, if the rook moves c1, would be nice. Queening, there's nothing there for white, because you can see that actually e8 is covered by the rook. b8 is also covered by the queen here. So bishop takes c2, and now 2 moves win, 50 points if you can get either of them. If you want to pause the video for 5 seconds, black to play. I played simply rook e1 check. Bishop e5 is also very good. For example, king g1 check here, and bishop d4 would win the queen. But I played immediate check instead of bishop e5, and then this is devastating, this bishop e5 check. It's mating after g3, queen takes, and check mate. So I got a bit lucky there because I misremembered the point of the opening theory, which does seem to kind of put the brakes on White's very scary centre and then play rook e8 to prompt h3. The way I played it, I took some liberties. Queen in Siberia, he could have hit me hard with an early e5, and even later after e5 was played, not ed but e6. So these are the key points which I thought I'd share with you today. Seems, you know, a bit instructive to me, so I thought I'd share this game with you. We did win the season, win the league, but we did lose last night. We were 2 players short, and it was the second team, so we managed to lose to the second team. Alex, Drew, Roy, Drew, Mike, Drew. I was the only one that won, but we only with 4 boards though, so we had 2 defaults. First match we've lost, but we won the league now. That was the final match of the North Circular 2019 Chess League. Okay, so if you enjoyed this game video, please click on the top left box, which should appear shortly. Become a member at chessworld.net. Play against other YouTubers. You can also test yourself on the variations covered in this and other game videos from the improved menu, the puzzle books option, which has a link to the annotated game. Comments, questions, donations, see the description. Like, share, subscribe with the notification bell. Really appreciated. Thanks very much. Addendum puzzle book for this game. So this is on the improved menu puzzle books. I've just labelled it King's Indian Defence, 4 pawns attack, actually, in the details there of the actual game. So let's have a look. Let's just do a few. Black to play for a clear advantage here. The problem is bishop takes e2, drags the queen from d5, so we take and then take on d5 there. Okay, this, I think black's safe enough just to take on e5. Here, white to play for a clear advantage. Okay, I think g4 is a key move here. That bishop's kind of in a bad state. E takes, and then knight takes. This looks devastating. Yeah, the dreaded 4 pawns attack. Black to play for a clear advantage. The bishop's getting trouble here. We can put more pressure on e4 to win that bishop on e3. This is all good fun, isn't it, these puzzles? Black to play for a clear advantage here. I think the queen just drops back here on this occasion. Then we can play c2. That's crushing. Oh, let's do some more. These are such fun. Okay, black to play for a clear advantage here. I think here, because of the form pawn installed, we have to play the emergency bishop a3. But once we do that, then we can double attack c2 and g2. Okay. Okay, black to play for a clear advantage here. Well, bishop a3. No, hang on. Rook e2 here looks strong. Let's calculate instead of trying to remember. Rook e2, surely, and then we can just take the bishop. That double attack is key. Black to play for a clear advantage here. Can we not just play c1? We've got e8 covered, we've got b8 covered. I think we just play c1 here. Yeah. Okay, 8 out of 8 on this occasion. On this occasion. There are fun ones here. Okay, hope you enjoyed that. Thanks very much.